So, what if I told you that the secret to becoming a better communicator wasn't in some expensive seminar or a dense business book? What if it was hiding in plain sight, on a sixth-grade English worksheet? Well, believe it or not, that's exactly what we're digging into today.
But first, let's start with a really basic question. What's the real difference between hearing and listening? I mean, we've all been there, right? You're talking to someone, you see them nodding along, but you get that sinking feeling they're not actually with you. They can hear the words coming out of your mouth, but they're not really listening.
And that feeling, that little bit of frustration, it gets at a challenge we all face, the true art of listening. It can feel so hard to get right. But what if there was a simple way to close that gap, to go from just hearing sounds to actually making a connection?
Well, it turns out the solution might be way simpler than any of us think. We're about to see how a simple tool, one designed for kids, actually holds some seriously profound lessons for us adults.
So welcome to the toolkit. And get this, every single idea we're about to look at comes directly from a vocabulary and listening worksheet made for 11-year-olds. It actually breaks down the whole complicated art of communication into 5 really simple, powerful tools.
The first tool in the box is interpret. Now, this is the foundation. It's not just about hearing the words, it's about doing the work to figure out what's behind the words. It's the difference between hearing a friend say, "I'm fine," and actually interpreting their tone to know that, no, they are definitely not fine. But, interpreting can be tough, and we can get it wrong. And that brings us to our next tool, clarify. This is a listener's secret weapon. Seriously, how many arguments or failed projects happen because we just assume we know what someone means? Clarifying is how you stop that. It's just having the courage to say, "Wait a second, can you say that another way? I want to make sure I understand."
Of course, we don't just talk with our mouths. And that's our third tool, gesture. It reminds us to listen with our eyes, too. Think about it. A firm handshake, someone crossing their arms, a person's slumped shoulders during a tough talk, those things can say way more than a whole paragraph of words. A great listener is paying attention to the whole show.
All right, next up is something that's super subtle but so important, volume. Just think about the phrase, "we need to talk." Said quietly, it's a simple request, but if someone says it loudly, with urgency, it's a completely different message, right? The volume tells us so much about the speaker's emotions and what's really at stake.
So where does all this stuff, interpreting, clarifying, watching gestures, actually happen? Well, it all comes together in the discussion. That's the main event. A good discussion isn't just one person talking. It's a real exchange, a back and forth where all these listening skills get put to the test in real time.
So there you have it. 5 simple words from a middle school handout are actually the building blocks of amazing communication. You interpret the real meaning, you clarify so you're sure, you watch the gestures, you pay attention to the volume, and you put it all together in a real discussion. Now, knowing the tools is one thing, but seeing them in action, that's something else. And the worksheet doesn't just give us the what, it also gives us the how, through this short, really powerful story that's basically a masterclass in learning how to listen. So the story is about a young boy named Samuel, who hears a voice calling him in the middle of the night. And he does what any of us would do. He makes a quick assumption. He jumps up, runs to his teacher, Eli, and says, "Here I am, you called me." He hears the sound, but he totally misunderstands where it's coming from.
And here's the part that I think we can all relate to. The communication just keeps failing, again and again. The voice calls, Samuel runs to Eli, and Eli sends him back to bed. It's this frustrating loop of misunderstanding. Kind of a perfect picture of those conversations where you feel like you're just going around in circles getting nowhere.
But then, something changes. Eli, the mentor, helps Samuel clarify what's going on. He gives him a completely new way to respond. So the next time the voice calls, Samuel doesn't jump up. He doesn't assume. Instead, he just says, "Speak, for your servant is listening." In that one moment, he goes from just hearing to truly actively listening.
So what can we pull from that story? Well, it gives us this really practical 4-step process. A lot of the time, we start by misinterpreting something. That's normal. The key is what comes next. We have to seek clarification, be willing to accept a little guidance, and then finally respond with real openness. That's how you get from just hearing to actually listening.
Okay, so how do we take this simple idea and actually use it in our own lives? Well, once again, the worksheet gives us a surprisingly practical way to do it. It treats communication less like some big mystery and more like a skill, something you can actually practice and get better at. For instance, check this out. The worksheet has this little fluency tracker. It asks the students to rate themselves on their expression, their pacing, and whether they're pausing. It's a simple way to just become more aware of how you're coming across. And we can do this too. We can just ask ourselves, am I talking too fast? Does my tone match my words? Am I even giving the other person a chance to talk?
And to make this really practical, the worksheet ends with a challenge that I'm just going to pass right along to you. Don't try to change everything at once. Just think, what is one small, specific thing you can do this week to be a better listener?
Because in the end, maybe the biggest lesson from this whole 6th grade worksheet is this. In a world that's always telling us to speak up, to have a voice, to be heard, sometimes the most powerful, the most helpful, and the most transformative thing we can do is just to be quiet, look at someone, and show them that we're ready to listen.